Welcome to Real Life in Real Estate. I'm Nikki Robbs. I am your local real estate agent serving Puyallup, Tacoma, and beyond. I love getting to talk about just regular, real life, real estate stuff. So if you've been on this podcast for any period of time, I've been covering just regular information for regular people buying regular real estate, and we're not targeting investors or really unique situations. This is just the stuff that we got to know in order to buy or sell a home. Well, I also wanted to incorporate real life stuff as well, things that have made my life more interesting or better, and I wanted to share them with you. So today I'm going to share books. Yay! If you've known me for any amount of time, there's a couple of things that you know about me. I run a lot. I run 3 days a week around my neighborhood for different reasons. I walk my dog all the time, and I love to read. I consider books to be fuel for my brain. They are like food to me, truly. I spent all of 2023 pausing after each book and actually taking the time to give it a review. Part of my review was to equate it to a food because books are fuel. So I'm going to share with you 2 nonfiction books and 1 fiction book that have stuck with me a very long time. So if you are not a reader, then just consider this episode fun listening of things that might enhance your life, might not. Maybe it's a good fit. Maybe it's a terrible fit. Maybe you want to skip this one. Or maybe you just send it to your friend who likes to read. Of course, that will be fine. And of course, hook me up, other reading friends. So I'm going to start with my first nonfiction book, which is Soundtracks by Jon Acuff. I am a huge Jon Acuff fan, so my gosh, if this podcast made it to Jon Acuff, I would just be incredibly thrilled. But his previous book before this, called Finish, definitely changed a huge part of my life because that book was about not letting procrastination win. Then this book, Soundtracks, is about overthinking. And my goodness, overthinking and procrastination have been huge problems in my life. And these 2 books have really helped dismantle the underlying problems beneath both of those. Soundtracks, the term soundtracks that Jon uses, he puts up the metaphor that we have these replaying thoughts in our head, and they're probably from something very old, or maybe even from our childhood, or from something our parents said or our grandparents said, and they may not be true, but they're in there. Kind of like when I was growing up and you were playing a record and there was a skip in the record, it was broken. Right? And it would just keep replaying this part over and over again. And pretty soon you have to get up and you have to move the needle on the record player. Well, what if your CD player was stuck on repeat 1 track? Do we remember those days? You thought it was on repeat the whole CD, but it wasn't. It was on repeat 1 track. So these are soundtracks that may be helpful, but they may not be. And they might be broken. So how do we identify and then replace broken soundtracks? This book was so powerful. Not only did I apply it, but Jon and his 2 daughters also wrote a teen version called Your New Playlist. And I listened to it with one of my kids in the car because we really had a bunch of thoughts that needed to be identified and then be changed. Things like, my parents are too busy for me. No, I guarantee you, if you have any healthy, caring family at all, parents being too busy is just a terrible thing to believe and to think. And if you actually ask your parent, are you too busy for me? They will say no. I would prefer to be interrupted by my kids than to keep on doing whatever it is I'm doing. I may have to take a pause and say, hold on, I will be right back. I just have to finish this thing, right? But especially as the kids have gotten older, I would rather be interrupted by them than do almost anything else in the world. So, nonfiction, Jon Acuff, Soundtracks. Should definitely get it, of course. But I say that about all of Jon Acuff's stuff. So to get an idea of if you want this book or if you even like Jon's style, I would suggest listening to his podcast. It's called All It Takes Is a Goal. I'll put the link in the notes below. Jon is really, really goal-oriented. I'm not that goal-oriented, but I have found a lot of things between the books and the podcast that have made a difference for me. Things like chunking this big goal into very small, manageable pieces. being okay with not getting perfection and just 80% is going to be good enough because 80% is better than zero. In soundtracks, he has us rewrite things so that they are true and helpful and kind, and making sure that we're speaking to ourselves in the same manner that we would speak to a friend, because you need to be your best friend. If you wouldn't let a friend talk to you like that, then we can't let ourselves talk to us like that. So that's fantastic. The fiction book I'm pulling out today, you might be surprised, but it's Dune. And I'm going to talk about Dune because the second movie is coming up. I was not a sci-fi fan. This would not have been on my radar any time in my entire life. The only reason that I read this book, and I say read loosely because I listened to it, but I felt like I needed a little trophy for my bookshelf to prove that I listened to it. So I went out and bought the paperback as soon as I could. Also because I was kind of unsure if the audiobook was an abridged version or if it was real. To be honest, the audiobook is 20 hours, which is not a big deal for me because I just do them in little chunks. Like you're going for a run, I listen to a book, or have a really long drive and I listen to a book for part of it. So 20 hours over a couple of months, not a big deal. But then I got this paperback and it's so thick that I immediately got overwhelmed, and I have not yet read the paperback. But here's what I want to tell you about Dune. First of all, this is the deepest, most intense cultural system that I've ever read outside of Lord of the Rings. It is more intense than the entire Narnia Chronicles. It is deeper and more complex than anything else I've ever read. Honestly, I don't read a lot of sci-fi, so maybe that's normal. But this is also 3 separate pieces in one big book. Lord of the Rings is actually 6 books. We know them as 3 movies, but within each movie, there's 2 books being represented. So you have to think of Dune like a trilogy. I love that they're remaking the movie in a better format so that you really get a sense of, oh yeah, that's the first part of the book. And then this is going to be the second movie, and this is going to be the third movie. It makes more sense to do a trilogy of movies rather than, just like Lord of the Rings, because it is such a big world. It's a very deep world. There's so many religions. There's so many political systems that are developed and explained. The characters are so deep. They are incredible. I listened to it because I had a lot of driving to do, but it haunted me for weeks afterward. I would find myself replaying scenes in my mind and different things about the characters and wondering about something that I had heard, and was it really like that? Did I mishear that? And I needed to get my hands on a physical book. So even if you're not into sci-fi, and maybe you saw the last Dune movie, that maybe you saw the one that came out in the 80s, thinking, yeah, okay, I know Dune. You don't know Dune. You just don't. So as a Tacoma native, and we have Dune Park right here in near Point Defiance. So Tacoma native Frank Herbert, Brian is his son. Frank Herbert created this incredibly deep world. It's not even that old. This predates Star Wars. You can totally tell that this inspired some elements of Star Wars because there's a lot of, not just story, but a lot of elements that make more sense. Where did Star Wars get their ideas? From Dune. It's amazing. I'm super excited to go see the second movie because I get to see the next piece of this complex story. So please, if you have even ever seen the very first Dune movie in the 80s, I think you should definitely go see the last Dune movie from last year, part 1. Part 2 is coming out like right now, and it is fantastic. I can't believe I'm saying that. But ever since I listened to that book, it haunts me in a good way. I like books that haunt me. All right. My last book for today is my favorite book of the last 18 months. It is nonfiction. Those of you who know me in real life, you are not surprised to hear me say it is The 6 Types of Working Genius by Pat Lencioni. Sorry, I took my dust cover off because I think dust covers are dumb. I had to do it on soundtracks. Let me show you why if you're watching the video. This is a beautiful cover. Overcoming overthinking, right? And you've got this gorgeous cover. Let me show you why I'm leaving the dust jacket on. For those of you who are on audio, it's a beautiful teal blue cover, nice solid color. And underneath the actual hardbound book is a yellow and teal swirl that is hard on the eyes. I think it does accurately depict the mental struggle of overthinking, but I don't like dust jackets. So the 6 Types of Working Genius has a great dust jacket, but I don't like dust jackets. Pat Lencioni and his team at the Table Group stumbled into something on accident. One of his coworkers was frustrated with him, and Pat was frustrated with himself, and they said, "Why are you like this?" And that one question launched a very big discussion at their company, and it led to the realization of we are all uniquely gifted with different geniuses. Now, we could use the word strengths, but honestly, if we use that word, I think we're going to get lost in other books that have a similar title. So using the word genius, I think, was a genius marketing move. For one thing, you can't get lost into other books. There are 6 types of working genius, and this is not a personality test. This is a strength finding tool. This is a genius finding tool. It's even a productivity tool. Let me explain. Even though I am taking video, I'm not going to show my presentation on why the 6 types of working genius can change your life and your family. So if you'd like to see that, I'm going to be recording at another time with PowerPoint, but for now it's all audio. The 6 types of working genius include the gifts of wonder, invention, discernment, galvanizing, enablement, and tenacity. And everyone has 2 that they are uniquely gifted in. And when they're operating in any one of those 2 geniuses, it's kind of like having your thermal cup full of coffee. That coffee or whatever hot drink, cocoa, tea, whatever, it doesn't cool down. Not quickly, not if it's a good thermal. And it's always there when you need it. It's very easy to step into your genius of invention, for example, because it's something you love to do and it actually gives you a lot of energy and you don't run out of it quickly. My genius is not an invention, actually. So if you have 2 geniuses, that means you also have 2 working competencies. You can do it for a short period of time. And that's like your glass of water out of the nice glass, the regular glass you have at the table. So you have a glass of water at home in a glass. It's going to be fine, but you probably don't leave that water there for 6 hours. It won't continue to be refreshing. It won't hold the same temperature, and it won't be quite as good. Your working competencies might be a skill that you can tap into from time to time, and you're pretty good at it, but it's not something you want to do all day. For instance, I do have a competency in tenacity, but I don't enjoy doing it. Not at all. Now, then there's 2 more. There's your working frustrations. And the working frustrations is like having a styrofoam cup with a hole in it. It drains you so fast when you have to work in that area. It drains your energy. It might drain you emotionally as well. And so if you have a working frustration in the area of invention, then when you're being asked to think of things on the spot, you might freeze. You might run away. You might just put up your hands and say, "Oh my gosh, please don't ask me to do this. This is terrible." The whole point, though, of having 6 types of working genius is to develop the team around you that you need. So I'm an entrepreneur. I have been by myself in most of my businesses, and I have learned the hard way which gaps I have. For instance, my working frustration is in galvanizing. Galvanizing is that genius that rallies people together, that rallies people around a common cause, and they get people to stay on task and to be excited about what they're doing. Excited might be the wrong word. But I have a working frustration in galvanizing. Pretty sure I scored absolute 0 on the test, and maybe even negative. At least that's how it feels. I don't like telling people to do things. I don't even like gathering people to do things. Do you know how this shows up? This shows up in parenting by telling kids, okay, we're going to the park, let's go get in the car, and then I don't want to say anything else. They should be able to get everything that they need. They should know that they need shoes, and I shouldn't have to tell them. But because, when they're toddlers and they're young elementary school age, you have to keep on galvanizing them and keep on reminding them, we're going to go to the park and it's going to be great. It's exhausting. That is my styrofoam cup with a hole in it. I'm terrible at it. I don't like doing it. And a lot of parenting is galvanizing. The people with wonder as a genius, someone else might think they've got their head in the clouds, but what they're doing is looking at the big picture. And they will ask really great penetrating questions like, why do we do this? Could we be serving our customers better? Should we go on vacation? What's for dinner? They're very important questions. They need to be asked. Someone with a gift of invention would usually respond to that question of what's for dinner, and they might have tons of ideas of what's for dinner. Or the worst one is a date night when someone says, where do you want to go for dinner? Oh my gosh, I don't know, because I do not have the genius of invention. What is for dinner? I have to meal plan. We should go on vacation. And then the inventor, or anyone with a working competency in invention, is going to have a couple of ideas. And okay, let's do Italian, let's do French, let's go on vacation to Southern California, let's go to Oregon, and la la la. Lots of ideas. Great. Some people have this, and I'm always in awe of how well people do this. The next stage of work is discernment. In discernment, they're the people that say no a lot. So I'm terribly sorry, but it's not because we don't like you, but people with discernment can either see the awesomeness in the plan or they see the flaws in the plan. And which one do people need to hear? Sometimes people need to hear the flaws in the plan. Sometimes they need to hear the awesomeness of the plan. People with a gift in discernment sometimes know nothing about the actual industry, but they have a very good gut. For example, one of my kids has never been in a serious relationship, and yet they give amazing relationship advice. They have a very good gut about people and about how healthy relationships work. And it's amazing to watch it happen. Someone you could bounce an idea off of about your business just because you know that they have a good gut. If you're planning vacation and you said, okay, we talked about Southern California, we talked about Oregon, the discernment person in that relationship or the decision-making group is going to say, you know what, but because of the time of the year, I think we should go to this location. Or maybe there's a family consideration that we should go here because it would be a better fit. Maybe the age of the kids or something like that. Next, we are in the galvanizing, which I already talked about. I'm really terrible at it. I don't like doing it. We discovered in my nonprofit volunteer group that no one on the team had galvanizing, and that's why we had a really hard time getting other people on board for any project whatsoever, because we're bad at galvanizing. This is why you need someone on your team that does this. The next step is enablement. The people with this gift are really, really good at being support. They love working behind the scenes and they're gung-ho about, hey, let's just go get this done. Let's go stuff envelopes. Let's check on the hotels for the vacation. Let's go to the grocery store and get the ingredients that we need. And the last step of work is tenacity. Tenacity is not my strength, but it is my husband's. Because of that, I can start projects and he can finish them because he actually loves to finish projects. He loves checking things off. He loves pushing through those last obstacles to get it over the finish line. So if you know, I have a great time starting the project, I have a great time inventing the project, I have a great time imagining possibilities about the project, but I don't finish them. You need a tenacity person in your life. I would strongly suggest that if you read the book, get the podcast, or go take the assessment for Working Genius and then call me, because I would love to help you leverage what you know about yourself and what you know about your teammates or your family, and then know what to outsource and what you can just do a little bit differently. So thanks for listening to me chat about some of my favorite books. I won't do this all the time, but it is fun to do from time to time because I do love my books. And I think they should be shared. So thanks for listening to Real Life in Real Estate. I'm Nikki Robs, and I serve the Tacoma and Puyallup area. If you're looking for a real estate agent who loves to run and read, then I'm your person. Hope you all have a great day. Let's get you home.